Well, let's go ahead and bring Vince Vargas on. So, Vince, I saw you hanging out in the background there a minute ago, and
Yeah,
you know,
trying to
I
get
got
everything figured out.
no, it's awesome. I'm so happy that you're here. You and Gallant Few and VetXpo go back a couple of years. You know, the first, excuse me, the first VetXpo you were at, I think it was in Wilmington, and
Yep.
you rolled out the short film, The Long Way Back, which that absolutely stunning. I mean, you captured in that short film almost, I think, every veteran's transition experience to a certain extent. It was just brilliant.
Thank
So it
you.
was awesome to be able to show it back then. And then 2 years ago, we saw you on a hospital bed getting a restart.
Yes, sir.
And it's good to see you looking healthy. It's cool to see what you're doing with Beteran.
Thank
And
you.
I'm just delighted to have you here. So I'm just going to turn it over to you. I'm going to shut my video off. I'll be listening.
Okay.
So if
Okay.
you,
Well,
if
real
you,
quick, can I ask? So right now we're gonna be live right now on
we,
Gallant Feud, correct?
we are live on Galfew's Facebook page
Okay.
right now.
If anyone's watching, make sure you guys share this to the Drinking Bros uh, group if you guys can. I'd love for some of them to jump in here and just check it out and ask questions. Yeah, and so that's it. And I'm just gonna talk, right? Like there's no time
That's
limit,
it.
or maybe there is a little, and then there's a questions and answers, correct?
Vince, you can have as much time as you want. So that I'm not going to cut you off.
No, no problem. I appreciate it. I got to coach football at some time today. So
Roger that. All right.
cool. Thank you.
It's all yours.
All right. Hey, what's up, y'all? My name is, Vincent Rocco Vargas. Most of the community probably knows me as Rocco now. And also in Hollywood now, they all know me as Rocco, which is pretty cool. Like Carl said, my first opportunity in speaking was given to me by the Gallant Few and as well as the Raider Project. Nick Kumatsos gave me the opportunity to speak and give you my story about my transition. And then the second time around, I spoke about balance. I talked about balance and how important it is and how it's been a big significant thing in my life in trying to identify balance and trying to keep my family happy as well as the balance of work. So if you guys are interested in those, go check those out. And so every time I get invited here, I want to try and bring something different to the table. I want to, there's speakers that do a lot of different stuff, but what can I give you that would hopefully be of value to the community and as well as get you thinking? And so today I'm going to talk about being the non-drinking bro. Most of you guys know from Article 15 clothing, Matt Best videos, and some of the Black Rifle Coffee videos, as well as the very well-known group called Drinking Bros. And that is a very significant part of this speech because knowing the original intent of Drinking Bros, and when we talked about it, me, JT, and Matt, and communicated about the idea of Drinking Bros, was we knew that veterans struggled. We also knew that veterans drank. And so the idea of how can we make sure that no veteran drinks alone again, right? And so this was the original intention in my head and where I was really proud of what we were doing with Drinking Bros, is creating a community in every major city that will be able to be almost a QRF or a friendship or someone to speak to in any city you can think of, as well as now we're in Korea, we're in Germany, we're in the UK, we're all over the place. And the intent was never drink alone again. And why was that? Well, you and I know we have this stigma of veterans that is, suicide, right? And so if you want to focus on suicide prevention, our first thought was like, we'll have a battle buddy there. There's other pledges out there that are very important and talk about the same thing, that you will not do that unless you call, right? Boone Cutler's very famous for his pledge, for his warrior pledge. I'll hit exactly what that is and get you guys a link for that too, because I think it's important. But so understand, we started and we promoted and we pushed Drinking Bros. And I want to tell you guys now, it is just under 2 years and I'm completely sober. 100%. It's just under 2 years. It's probably 1 month. And I never thought it'd go this long, so I never gave myself a date. I just knew I started becoming sober to work on IVF to have a baby with my wife, and it just kind of turned into a challenge. And then it turned into like, well, let's see how long it can go. And then I started getting friends saying, hey, you want to have a beer? And I said, maybe a coffee. And they stopped reaching out to me. And it started this cycle of, okay, wait a minute. There's something here that is completely interesting about our community and drinking. I lost friends because I stopped drinking. Weird as heck. right? People stopped replying to me because I said maybe a coffee, and they just didn't. I don't know why, they just didn't want to communicate. So let's go back. Let me tell you about how I was raised. My grandfather was an alcoholic. And he wasn't the good alcoholics. He was an ugly alcoholic. He came home and beat my grandmother and any kid that was in his way. My father was raised on the streets because he didn't want to come home to that. Okay. My grandfather was a Puerto Rican albino. He got picked on a lot. He actually spent time in prison because someone took his guitar from him during a party and he shot him. So there's my grandfather. Not the most, you know, role model for me. But you know what? He ended up passing away, unfortunately, before I was old enough to really get to know him. My father now, let's talk about him. He is a 6 beer a day guy as I was growing up. And it was actually kind of, that 6 beers was kind of his cool as a cucumber number. He was never an abusive drunk, never an angry drunk, actually a very happy, go lucky, sweet dude when he's drinking. I wouldn't even say drunk. I don't know if my dad even gets drunk. He drank those 6 beers a day to debrief himself from doing 911 dispatching and being an LA City firefighter his whole life, nothing but trauma around him. And so I completely understood as I got older what his thing was. As a Hispanic man, it was actually a very honored position to be able to be the beer guy. There's a fight going on TV and dad's like, hey, Pop, go grab me a beer. And I'd run out there and grab his beer, and I'm super proud because he trusted me with this very, very special item. See, in the Hispanic community and several other communities as well, there are 3 things we celebrate all the time. Yeah, right? We celebrate anything you think of, but it's with good food, good music, and good liquor. So already I've kind of grown accustomed to the culture of drinking and raised in a drinking culture. Okay, not so much of a big deal. And then I got into baseball. And as baseball progressed from high school, you started drinking. I was able to drink pretty well and a pretty experienced drinker by the time I graduated high school. Got into junior college, and then drinking became almost I don't know. You were the cool guy if you can drink more. In our world, it was the expected thing for a baseball player to play a game and drink. I started going into this phase of, if I pitched well, I drank to celebrate. If I pitched bad, I drank even more to forget it. And this continued on. Eventually, I had a full ride to an NAIA college in Brescia University, and it was in Kentucky, which was crazy for me. The first time I've ever really been apart from my family, first time I've actually been able to make every decision I can and try not to mess up. The first night in Kentucky, I got in a fight with a bartender at Applebee's because I was so drunk. I was yelling inside these bottles. It was like empty drink and then a halfway empty drink and a full drink. And I'm saying, F you, F you, F you. And then the bartender said, hey, this is a family restaurant. And I said, F you. So he came around the bar. We went outside. We threw down real quick. The cops broke it up eventually. They picked me up, put me in the back of the car, and they said, where would you like to go next, Mr. Vargas? Because it was such a small town, drinking, such a small town that baseball really knew who I was and was excited to have a kid from Los Angeles, California playing baseball in Kentucky. So all they did was pick me up and take me to another bar. That kind of started a precedence for me as in like, okay, cool. I could kind of get away with what I want here. Later on that year, didn't get to play baseball because I became academically ineligible because I failed ceramics class. Now, I knew I was failing and I knew I needed to drop that class, but the problem was that I drank very heavily the night before, slept in, hungover, and missed the drop date because I was drinking. So I wasted an opportunity of playing college baseball at a higher level, as well as potentially the future of my life would be a professional baseball player is what I wanted to be. And it was all cut short because of baseball. Don't worry, I blamed it on everything else but drinking. Everything, 100%. Raise my hand, join the military. I get into Ranger Battalion. And when I get there, I fit in like a glove. I can drink, I can fight. I'm athletic enough to do my job. And here we go. 4 years of this, of going to war, coming home, drinking with the friends, drinking with the guys, going back to war, going back home. Those 4 years of combat I remember because I was sober. I don't necessarily remember the fine points of my daughter's first steps, of my daughter's talking. I don't remember first words. Okay. I don't remember these special memories that she tells me today. Dad, this no joke the other day. Dad, you remember that one time I was sitting on your lap and I was eating something and the spoon made me throw up? No, I absolutely don't remember very much because most of the time I was home, I was drinking, whether it be drinking with the guys and just drinking to forget it all, or drinking one or two or three or four beers just to watch a UFC fight. It didn't matter. I was drinking. And when I was drinking, I was trying to, I guess, wash away the thoughts and everything of combat. But at the same time, inadvertently, I'm washing away the memories of my own kids. Frustrating. And so, like, today, it's not about talking to you guys about stop drinking. That's like the last thing I want to tell any of you guys, because I'm sure half of you guys already turned it off and switched the page and unfollowed me and everything else that happens because I don't drink. Okay. My goal here is to be a voice for the community. I want to save lives, like genuinely, not like notional push-ups, save lives, but like genuinely give actions and tangible things that can change the veteran community, that can actually motivate and inspire others to be better. See, what people forget is alcohol is a drug, no matter how you shape it. There used to be studies that say one glass of wine is actually healthy for you. And there's now studies saying, no, not even one. Not even one. Because anytime you're putting alcohol in your system, it is a drug. It's a toxin. You are anesthetizing your brain to shut off the thought process, to ease the noise, right? And so you want to live in an altered reality. Weird. What is it about your reality that you don't want to face? And maybe that should be the question you should ask yourself and say, well, if there's something in my reality I don't want to deal with, well, maybe that's what I should deal with. Maybe I can get healthier by identifying what these things are that force me to drink, that make me drink, that get me to want to drink more, and say, wait a minute, if it gets me to want to drink, what is it that I'm hiding? What is it in myself that I need to work on? Because in the end of the day, the only thing we could ever do and get healthy is identify those issues, go get help. Now, that's a big ask. What are those issues? I can give you a list of all my issues, right? But it's hard for you to grow without identifying your own little things. Okay, and so let me continue here. We raised Drinking Bros to be this drinking culture. Awesome. But what we didn't realize that we could be potentially boosting this number of veterans committing suicide, we inadvertently were hurting that. Okay, and it's not intentionally. Look, we all drank, and drinking was good, and drinking was cool. But until I identified, like, wait a minute, the past 15 of my friends who committed suicide all have had liquor in their system. All of them. 15. Okay, I could even probably go even further back. That's as far as I went. But that in itself made me raise a question like, wait a minute, let me research this. Okay, and you can Google right now, veterans and suicide. Okay, and there's a direct correlation with drinking. Okay, there's something in it. If you are a serious drinker, and you'd have to find this, and I can even send you the paper that I have on my computer, that if you are a serious drinker, alcohol can actually change the hormones in your brain to give you suicide ideation. What? What? If that's not enough to tell you, hey, we have a problem with suicide in the veteran community, why is it always identified to be close contact with alcohol? So then why do we promote alcoholism? Why is it romanticized in the veteran community that the tough guys go to war, we drink, we I have no idea, and it's what's been told for years and years and years, and I've always been in a position that if they tell you this is how it's always been, well, then maybe that's wrong. Maybe it's time for us to take a step back and identify what is drinking responsibly. It's not getting a DD, right? It's not getting a designated driver or an Uber. I believe drinking responsibly means don't drink until you're mentally, emotionally, and physically healthy. Okay, like everything, right? My relationship might need work. I'm going to fix that. I need work. I'm going to fix that, right? Physically, I need all these things are what has people going into depression. Check your blood work. Go get counseling for things, right? Go get relationship counseling. Maybe the reason that your relationship is not doing so well is because you're drinking with the boys too much. Okay. Maybe you guys don't even have a normal relationship because you've never communicated without alcohol. Okay. What do your kids, what do they think? My kids know exactly which is my beer, the red one to pick up from the fridge. I used to ask them to do it for me. I'm ashamed by that now. But I used to ask them like, hey, baby, go get daddy's juice, the red one. And they knew about it. I think the best teaching point I can show my kids is that I can stop. At any point, stop. I'm done. Been 2 years, hasn't touched it. Just under 2 years, haven't touched it. But then it raised the question with, how many soldiers in the military did I raise in a drinking culture? How many of my soldiers, which I call my kids, did I turn into alcoholics? How many of those impressionable kids that learned everything they could about war from their leader also learned to heal themselves with alcohol? That's a crazy thing to think about. It actually eats at me because I want to be a great leader for my kids, for my soldiers. And then I think, wait a minute, I've fallen into the same conversation as anyone before me that says alcohol is what we do. The warfighter drinks. Well, the warfighter who comes back for combat probably isn't a responsible drinker because there's too many little issues they haven't fixed yet. This isn't me telling you it's time to stop drinking. This is me telling you it's time to drink responsibly. I don't want people to continue to think this is what warfighters do. This is what law enforcement agents do. This is what veterans do. No, that's not true. That's what you've been led to believe, and you haven't done outside the box to say, wait, it all starts with me. I need to fix me first. I need to get healthy before I can enjoy a glass of wine, even a bottle with my wife. I need to know that I can handle my liquor. I can drink 4 whatever whiskeys and whatever and still know that I'm not going to feel bad about it and potentially go down a path that I can't come back from. This is the conversation we have not had. Every function in the military, every function in these nonprofits, everything you do involves alcohol. You're involving alcohol in a community that has an alcohol issue. Let's check ourselves on that, right? You NCOs out there, you have soldiers that are getting out of the military, right? And for me, are you going to continue to raise them in a way that they become alcoholics, that they become the statistic that we're all trying to fight and we all want to help so badly, but let's go ahead and drink? These are the questions I want to ask you. These are the questions I want you to check yourself. If you're not healthy enough to drink, if you're not, your mind, body, soul, relationships in your life, if those aren't working, stop. Don't drink. Figure it out. Get counseling. Identify the problem. 90% of the time, it's you. 90% of the time, you're not looking in the mirror and taking responsibility for your own actions. Beteran is nothing about, is nothing other than self-accountability. Boom. That's what Beteran is. You want to be better? Be accountable for your own bullcrap. Plain and simple. You go into a VFW, it's a drinking culture. You go into American Legion, it's a drinking culture. Okay, I'm just letting you know here. There's something that needs to be talked about. And so here I am. I don't know if I'm going to be sober my whole life. I'm just at a point right now that I'm fixing all my little issues to make sure that my relationship with my wife, my kids, and myself are healthy enough to partake in a celebration drink, if that's what I choose to do. Or maybe I won't touch it ever again. I don't know. I don't feel like I am ready to touch alcohol because there's still things in my life I need to fix. This is me. Whatever you do is yours. Doesn't matter. None of my business. I just want to make sure you are thinking outside that box and not just doing what everyone else has ever told you to do. Because that one sip of beer and says, oh man, now my day's better. That is an addiction. That's a drug. Okay. Why is it hard to get sober? Why is it hard to find growth in people without alcohol or any kind of other drug? Because it takes a long time to see real change without drugs. It takes a long time to feel better about trauma, to get better in your physical fitness abilities, to get better in anything. It takes time. We are this immediate gratification group that want the fix now. And that's why, it feels good. I would check that. For me, for some reason, I want to grow. I want to continue to get better for my kids, for myself, for my community. In the Beteran world, I always say better me, better community, because it starts with me. And if once I'm healthy, I can go start helping others, right? And I believe in that. And so, like, here's the thing. I'm going to stop talking here because I'm sure some of you are like, oh my God. But listen to this. I want to start an initiative, and I've been writing it. I've been having friends put it together. I want you NCOs, anyone who is active duty, who has soldiers, airmen, anyone getting out of the military. I want to propose to them to take 365 days to stay alive. 365 stay alive initiative. Don't drink for 1 year. 1 year. Everyone's gonna be like, bullshit. I can't do it. Blah, blah, blah. If you want your soldier to be successful, if you want your airman, your Marine, your Navy personnel, I don't want to say it, to be successful, ask them to be sober for a year. In 1 year, they will grow exponentially. They will have more opportunity. They will give themselves so much more growth emotionally, physically, mentally. If they go to counseling, they get their blood work done, they get healthy. And then at that 1 year mark, if they want to drink at that point, hopefully they respect it a little bit more. They understand why they're celebrating, because it's a big feat to do that. And their life is probably 10 times more successful than it ever would have been if they started drinking the day they got out. That's me, man. This is Beteran. This is what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to help you get better. And it's not by virtual signaling of push-ups, because I understand what that means. I understand the awareness of suicide. But if us community want to stick together and do something, let's do something. Something with an actual action towards saving lives. And this is where we start. Plain and simple. We have to identify that. Now, after that 1 year, you got your life together, drink all you want, drink responsibly. If you're mentally healthy and in good state, drink. Do your thing. All I want is to see more people become successful. All I want is people to grow and get those answers for their trauma. That's it, man. I'm Vincent Rocca Vargas. This is about the non-drinking bro. I love all you guys. I appreciate all you veterans for even coming in here listening. I'm willing to take questions and answers all you want. And that's it for me today.
Hey, Vince, I'm going to step in front of any questions first, because I just, a couple things I want to say. First off, wow, powerful, absolutely outstanding. Thank you for sharing that message. One of the greatest failures, one of the greatest professional failures of my life as a company commander in the 25th Infantry Division, long time ago, was and at the time I thought it was a success. I had a staff sergeant, squad leader, who was a drunk. And he'd come in the morning and you knew he was drunk and his performance was substandard. And so we had one of those opportunities to pee in a cup and blow in a breathalyzer, and sure enough, before PT formation, he was intoxicated. So he goes in front of the battalion commander. Because of his long service and some things that he had done, battalion commander didn't bust him, but he put a suspended bust on him. Well, guess what? Within a month, happened again. So all I got to do is call battalion commander and say, lift the suspension. So now the guy goes, if I remember right, he went from E6 to E4. So now another month goes by, he does it again. Now he's mine. So now he becomes an E3, and he's standing in my office, and I say, do you want to leave the Army with no rank? Because that's where you're going. And I started the chapter process to get rid of him. I didn't dig into the root cause. I didn't. As a leader, I didn't do what I should have done. And it still eats at me because I don't know if he's alive. I don't know if he fixed his problems. I don't know what happened. But I do know that I let him down. And because of that, I let the rest of our brothers down. So, and I say brothers because at that time it was only men. So I always forget to say sisters. But there's a couple of levels to it, right? Because as a leader, what you said, you display the example, right? And if you go out and you party, hey, my battalion commander every Friday afternoon would have a trash can full of beer in the front lawn of his quarters. And he'd say, hey, everybody come over, walk so you don't have to drive. So, hey,
Yeah.
we got the driving part covered, but we don't care if you get blitzed. And then I crush a squad leader's nuts for doing what
Right.
my battalion commander, I mean, just the leadership has got to get a handle on it. And it's still an issue. And one of my favorite sayings is, when you go into the military, you're not taught which wine goes with which cheese when it comes to alcohol consumption, right? And then by the time you're out, now you've developed these habits, and you can't go to that which wine goes with which cheese to enjoy it socially responsibly, because you've been used to crushing it and you think that's the way everybody else is.
Yeah.
And that absolutely is devastating. We used to have alcohol when we'd do a climbing event. We'd go out, we'd climb for all day real hard, with Nick, Raider Project. And then at night we'd sit around the fire and drink beer. And one night, one guy got stupid drunk and endangered himself and others. So, but we enabled it. So
Right.
we can't do that. And it's
Right.
not because it was his fault, but it's because we created an environment where that behavior was able to happen. So now,
Right.
occasionally, after we do our indoor rock climbing, we'll go to a hamburger place, and I used to buy everybody their food, and I'd say, if you want to have alcohol, you pay for your own, and I'd buy my own beer.
Right.
Well, then I found out that a guy sitting across from me would buy his own beer and then couldn't stop buying his own beer, and so I had just created a situation where.
Right.
He writes down. So I can't do that when I'm with them now. I can't do that because I have to model the right behavior.
Right. It's one of those things where, like, everyone's on their own, I guess, in their own level of transition. And some guys are still struggling with those things. And the last thing we want to be is the enabler to help them continue to have their struggle. Right. So anytime I do my nonprofit stuff with Hero Sports, we don't do alcohol in Salt Lake City, because I know several of my guys are struggling with addiction. And so it's a dry policy. And after the game, you do what you want to do.
Yeah. Well, let's see. There's a bunch of comments over here. I think most folks are saying thank you for the message. Very powerful message. We do have got one veteran that said, "Hey, what do you know about hallucinogens?" Or I don't even know how to pronounce it.
It's ayahuasca. No, I've done a lot of study on it. I'm actually going back to college right now, finishing my bachelor's, and then I'm working towards my master's in social work. I want to be able to really provide more answers for guys. But I've done my studies on hallucinogens, and in my opinion, to heal post-traumatic stress, I don't know enough about it to speak on it, right? I don't. I think if you have to, self-medicating with alcohol is one thing, and then people say, well, it's healthier to do marijuana. Well, why self-medicate with anything other than just figuring out what it is through counseling, completely sober? And at that point, you could really get to know who you are. Because anytime you introduce some kind of substance, you're still hiding from the truth, right? You're still you're using something as a barrier. And I want guys to see that and understand that, like, try and do it sober. I would try and do it all sober. And then after that, we're mature enough adults to say what they want to try and what they don't. Ayahuasca and other things like that, I've heard are really good for helping guys with trauma. Those are things that I'm actually wanting to study myself and find more answers for the community. I just can't speak on it right now because I don't know enough to even say anything.
Nice. Good. Yeah, sorry, Miles. I misspoke. Entheogens. Yeah. There you go.
I'd have to look that up, Miles, and I appreciate it, man. Hit me up, and I would love to see some kind of data that you have.
What do you think about CBD?
Same. I don't know enough about it. It's so many funny things, like the Air Force banned it, or at least Hill did here in Utah, because the regulations on CBD is not, it's not as regulated as other things would be. And so you have some CBD that says 0% THC, some. And so again, I've used CBD and I found it to be effective for me, especially I have like a lot of ankle and back pains, and whatnot. And, and it's still doing my own research and I like to self-test these things and see, like, how does it make me feel? As of now, I think CBD's been pretty positive in the community. It's just some of the DOD doesn't allow it, which is unfortunate, right? And it's something that is proven to be non-psychoactive or any other thing. But
well, you have to be careful because you can endanger your VA medications.
Right.
Because if you're taking, if for a long time, I was taking initially harder and then lighter medication for back pain.
Yeah.
Right. And then somebody introduced me to CBD. So I use CBD oil. Well, the CBD oil, apparently, when you take pain medication at the VA, you go in every 6 months and you pee in a cup. Well, guess who came up hot?
Oh
Right.
yeah.
So now the VA, I am on a list that for the rest of my life, my VA doctor says, well, the VA will never prescribe pain medication for you again because you're a pothead. I'm like,
yeah. And that's kind of this
CBD oil.
So weird space.
Okay, well, the CBD worked better anyway, but we're getting a little off the track. But it's incredibly important for veterans that are in leadership positions to be able to openly talk and lead, like you've done through the talk today, to be open and honest about the things that you've experienced. I mean, you've done that through your film work, you've done that through your poetry. Just amazing work it's healing and it's touching. And I encourage everyone to go, if you haven't watched that short film, The Long Way Back, just Google Vince Vargas short film and it'll pop right up. And there are some other things out there that you've done as well.
Yes, sir.
I'm looking to see, it looks like everything's mostly comments, not necessarily questions, but if somebody does have a question that they would like to pose to Vince, we still have a little bit of time. So
yeah, it's whatever. I mean, I'm here. I mean, the goal is to just be able to be here and talk to anyone that wanted to ask questions or anything. It's a funny space. I was actually nervous about speaking about it because I didn't want my own community to be like, and we have those personalities sometimes that just don't want to hear it. But there's a lot of truth behind drinking and suicide ideation. And I just wanted to make that like real clear that that's something that we should be looking into as a community, right? That's something that we should really try and identify and try and change the culture of that. Like I said, I'm not against drinking. Shit, I own a whiskey company. You know what I mean? Not against drinking. I'm against drinking while mentally unstable, right? And that's the biggest, I think, what motivated me for Beteran was to try and find answers for veterans to be better, just to do better. And the drinking became part accidentally into my life, and it made sense. And I started researching more and started seeing the patterns of my own friends who were taking their lives, and it was drinking. And I'm like, man, if I could take anything away from this, is every single one of them was drinking. And that decision-making process that we all have, it's a little bit blurred at that point. And, they're making decisions that I know some of these guys are incredible dudes and would probably never make that decision. But in that moment, with post-traumatic stress and everything else going on in their lives, they wanted to quiet the noise. And that is a frustrating thing for me, having friends and being a guy who puts himself out there to try and help veterans. And then for them not to call me, which I understand too, when a veteran is in real distress, they're not thinking about anything other than what they want to do. And so it sucks, and, I put a lot of that on my own self, that I'm not starting enough initiatives. I'm not putting myself out there enough. And so, Beteran became like, this is my work. And, which, on the business side of things, all that is to generate a revenue to create Beteran transition centers for veterans. Is just a transition center with answers, right? Like a community that's not revolved around alcohol, but revolved around answers and positivity and motivation and community. You know what I mean? And so, that's really what it's about, and anything I can do to continue on that path is what I'm trying to do. And so when I get invited here, I was like, you know what, I'm going to speak about drinking. And as controversial as a subject it might be in our community, I think it needs to be told.
You mentioned earlier Boone Cutler and the Spartan Pledge.
The Spartan
Pledge. Yeah, we played the old video and the new video this morning as we got started. Thursday afternoon, the Reno VA, Boone Cutler, and Soldier Hard are going to be live on this broadcast.
Yeah,
and they're going to talk Spartan Pledge, and that is extremely powerful. And so, yeah, thank you for mentioning that. That's something that when we've got to get to the point where we're accountable to each other. Yep. And that accountability is what keeps people alive. And that accountability of being open and honest and talking with your brother, your sister about your drinking or their drinking or any of the other things that you see that are not moving, that it all goes back to what is moving you towards the things that are going to make you successful in life. Are you intentionally moving yourself forward to success? Or are you throwing things in front of you that put hurdles to that success?
Yep.
So,
There's a question here, and Chad, he wants to know how I can kind of the evaluation criteria used to finding a counselor. Man, I've done it all, and it's not really an evaluation, I guess, criteria. I went and talked to every single kind of counselor. Currently, right now, I still speak to a counselor in the VA, and then I have a social worker who's experiencing post-traumatic stress, right? and I still have my little episodes, right? There's still things that I'm fixing, right? So that's why I'm still in the sober phase of like, let me figure me out. But I've gone to group. I've done EMDR. I'm going to start messing with hypnosis. I'm going to try everything you can think of. I'm putting myself through it because I need to find the answers for you guys and for myself and for my family. And so all I'd say, Chad, is if you've been to combat, a really good resource is the vet centers. They will give you free counseling for any combat veteran at the vet centers. If you haven't been to combat, well, then that's a different one. You have to go to the VA and you have to find a way. But all I'm saying is, there's a lot of stuff out there and a lot of different styles of post-traumatic stress therapy, and not all of them are going to work. Straight up, not all of them you're going to enjoy. I hate the group ones. I think for some reason ego gets involved with me and other things. But Chad, take your time and start knocking it out, right? I think to me, the only thing we can do is do the legwork, right? It's a road march, man. So put one foot in front of the other and start moving. And that's the only way you're going to get your own answers.
yeah, that's good. There are a couple of things that you can also do is do some Googling on counseling, right? So find out different kinds of counseling techniques for post-traumatic stress, because you may find some things. You can do a little bit of research online that may point you towards an initial starting point. You said, Vince, you're going back to school. You want to get your master's in social work. Is there a particular field, or what are you looking at?
Yeah, so in the field of social work here in Utah, I could actually be a counselor for veterans. And then from there, I can work on potentially a doctrine, but I need to see what makes sense. Everyone says they want to help veterans. Who's actually doing anything to help veterans, right? Like, I'm so passionate about this. It makes only sense to just go to school and keep learning. I started researching on alcohol and reading all these white papers, and I was like, you know what? I know what I need to do, and so I went through the VOC rehab and very tedious process, but I got it done. And I'm going to school right now to finish my behavioral health bachelor's degree and jumping into social work after. So after that, I'll be able to, no joke, it's a clinical position here in Salt Lake City, Utah, and I believe in other states as well. And I can, no joke, counsel others in getting over trauma. And like, to me, it's like, that's a win. You know what I mean? Someone like me who's been through it, who's experienced it, who's struggled with it, and now hopefully getting the answers for others to get through it. That's what I want to do, right? On top of everything else I'm doing. But that to me is like, that's my goal for myself. Whether it takes 2 years or 6 years, doesn't matter. Like, I'm going to get this done, right? And it's all for the community, because I think we need to find more who can really do a tangible thing, an action that helps. Right. And I don't mean to knock on the 22 push-ups thing. It's nice to see a lot of people, famous people, whatnot, acknowledge it. But in the end of the day, you're bringing awareness to something I believe everyone in the United States is fully aware of, right? It's veterans and suicide. It's right now, it's an epidemic. But if you looked at the new studies in 2019, civilian suicide is matching us at 17 a day. Right. So this interesting thing is like, we don't have the monopoly on suicide, but I care near and dear about my brothers and sisters. And so how could I find those answers? And I know for a fact, push-ups might make people aware, but push-ups aren't actually holding the hand of the dude and saying, listen, we need to get you to counseling. Right. And so what is going to do that? It's our leaders in our organizations. It's our senior NCOs. It's our social media influencer veterans, right? Our big name veterans telling that story of counseling is important. Slow your drinking down. Pay attention to your life. Self-accountability, right? Very basic things, but we're not doing that. We're doing push-ups, and which is not a real answer. It just shows you care, and we all have a bleeding heart for the subject. We get it. But I want to find legit actions that change lives. And starting with the drinking thing is the first thing.
Outstanding. I'm working on my master's too right now.
Nice.
I'm ahead of you. I'm halfway through my master's program for rehabilitation counseling, which I plan to to go for my license. So I'll be a licensed counselor. So yeah, same thing. I started a little later in life than you, but yeah, I've been doing this for 10 years now. I need to have some legitimacy behind what we're doing. And that's the big reason why I'm doing it, because, and there are some things that we haven't done that we probably should have done because we didn't know knowledge base wise what we should have done. So.
All right. I mean, if there's any other questions, cool. If not, you know, whatever you need from me, Carl, I'm good with whatever.
I was just double checking and making sure we didn't have any other questions we needed to address. I think we're good.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Yes, sir. What, real quick, where can people find your stuff?
You know, right now we're doing the, like I said, initiative to build, my goal is to build a Beteran transition center in every major city in America. And that's a big feat, but to me, it's like, you know, put that finish line out there and find a way to make it happen. That's what we're doing here with Beteran. I brought on some big names in the marketing world to help me make this happen. And so we do things like the Beteran giveaway. It's a giveaway for motorcycles. When next one might be buy a car, but whatever it is, it's a marketing gimmick to get you to support the cause, right? The goal is to support the cause. You know, we're definitely giving away motorcycles, but and the shirts are all positive. But like I said, at the end of the day, it's to raise enough money to build a transition center across the nation. You can find my Instagram. It's vincent.rocco.vargas. You can find me as well on season 3 of The Mayans. I'm headed back to LA to start filming that here soon. You know, and another program we're going to be doing is helping veterans through acting, and trust me, it's been another savior of my own life, and we can talk all about that at another time. You guys message me, I answer every single message that comes through. I'll even give you my phone number. I don't care, it doesn't bother me, but if I can help find you answers, connect the dots for you, that's what I'm here for.
Vince, thank you.
Thank you very much.
All right, buddy, take care.